When I went back for the first time, this was before Rod came on board, I went on a trip to Poland to attend a film festival. And while I was there, I decided to try and find the places that my mother had talked about in what had once been Poland but was now in Ukraine. I was with my husband Stephen and we decided to film the trip even though we had absolutely no resources. Okay, this is our home for the next 15 hours. And Stephen's not a professional cameraman, but we decided to borrow a camera and just shoot whatever we could.
We've just passed Rzeszów, that was that station. Here's the border here. And we're going to Lvov.
My mother had always told me lots of stories about her time in Lvov. The town used to be in Poland, but it's now part of Ukraine.
Okay. All right, well, I've got no idea where we are. I can't read any of the signs. It's all in Cyrillic. This is harder than I thought it was going to be.
From Lvov, we set out for my mother's village, about 130 kilometres away. And the journey turned out to be quite eventful.
We're just on our way to Ivano-Frankivsk and the bus has broken down.
I thought he was going to kill me.
We're now on the second bus and the second bus is broken down as well.
Well, eventually we got to the village.
Yes.
I'm not sure what I was expecting exactly, but it was like stepping back in time by a couple of centuries. If my mother had never left this village, I could easily have imagined her as one of these women living out her life here. What I was looking for was traces of her family. I was trying to get a sense of her early life in the village. I speak very bad Polish, and this village is now in the Ukraine, and Ukrainian is spoken. I could understand a lot. I could understand about 75% of what was being said, and I did have a Ukrainian translator. But it was all very chaotic. And when I found my mother's brother's house, it was basically a one-roomed hut and it still had a dirt floor.
What really exhilarated me was when we decided, we didn't have any funding, but we just thought we have to go back to Poland and Ukraine and do some filming. And that was fantastic because there was a kind of a staged journey of that. First we went to Warsaw to shoot some recreations.
Take two.
Then we crossed over into Ukraine. We went to Lvov, which has also got a rich history, but a big city.
By the time I'd got back to Lvov for the second time, I had actually found my mother's last known address on a document, so I was much better prepared this time. I still don't know why she gave this address as her last address in Poland. Was she living here or working here? I've got no idea. It's still a mystery that I'll probably never solve.
Then we went to Sophia's mother's old village, to tiny village, to a place where they were still drawing water from the wells. Plumbing was very basic. People were out in the fields bent over from morning till night, just hoeing and weeding. And so that to me was just a wonderful experience.
We were very fortunate because we found a young translator who spoke perfect English.
His name was Pavlo, but she believes that we are talking about different.
Right. And it turned out that she lived in the village next door to my mother's village. And her own father had been born in my mother's village. And the grandmother's house, even though the grandmother had died, the grandmother's house still existed with pretty well all the furniture, all the paintings on the walls, the doonas. So we used that as a location. That was just so fortuitous. I couldn't believe our luck.
If we decided to build a set, it would have looked like that.
Exactly.
And there was this house, and she said, "I'll just go and get the key." And we opened the door. There was the bed, there were the props, the old baking things, all of which we've used in some of the recreations in the film.
And she had great connections with the village. So we had an entree into that world, and we went to the church on the Sunday. And spoke to the community and handed out leaflets because we wanted to inform everyone what we were doing, and it was just a gift for us to have found Marika, our translator, to just give us that entree into that world.
In my mother's time, this was a Polish village, but now there's no trace of any Polish graves here at all. It's all in Cyrillic. I couldn't find any trace at all of her mother's grave. I'd brought some earth with me from my mother's grave in Adelaide. This was the way I thought that I could link her back to her own mother. So I decided to go to the river that she'd told me about in stories of how she'd played there as a child. And I sprinkled the earth in the river there. This seemed to be a way that I could bring her home to her village symbolically and finally unite her with her mother.